What up everybody, it's your boy the Kryptonian saying here, bringing you a review for One Piece chapter 640. And so I had to stop for a second and I got to a cover page, right? I know some of you guys are already, you're on the keyboard, clicking on the strokes and everything, and you're like, oh shit, what cover page is he talking about? What's he so excited for? Well, I just saw Vivi in the cover page, and God, forgive me for this. Forgive me for this. Vivi looking like a straight up snack right now, man. Vivi looking good, man. Look at that shit, man. Oda, man. Oda, good job, Oda. Totally appreciate that shit. We have to redo the hierarchy for the One Piece women now. So, without any further ado, let's get into the review. Oh shit, yo. Chapter 640. So, let me get this straight. Did Vander Decken just die? Holy shit, man! Like the ship, because he was still angling on Shirahoshi. She has this brilliant idea, right? She has this brilliant idea that she is going to continue to lead the ship away from the island, because as long as there's a sliver of consciousness there, she has the ability to draw the ship away. It's a very noble thing, and as you guys know, I like really strong female characters. It's something that I find a lot of joy in. And so when it comes to reading a character like Shirahoshi, one of the things that really kind of stands out to me now is when you compare her to when we first met her. She was a bit of a crybaby, and yet when you look at this now, it's like, look at her three brothers, right? Look at her three brothers. They're warriors, and you would think that they'd be the best to lead the country, right? If anything happens to Neptune, it should be her, because she's got a lot of her mother in her. And yet, because of how the dynamics work and royalty and all that, she probably will never lead a country. But what I find very interesting is that we have seen examples of this in the One Piece world, where characters like Vivi have kind of been put in a position to where they will eventually take over, and so I find that very, very interesting that we have yet another female character who could play in a significant role later on in the future if anything happens to Neptune. And because of how this chapter is looking out, something could happen to Neptune. The Noah ship is falling towards Fishman Island, and obviously Fishman Island's not going to get wiped out because all the Straw Hats are down there. And I know because I ordered a box set, and I'm on volume 65, volume 66 is right next, so I know that, hey, Shirahoshi is on the cover, so I know they're not going to die, right? So, no, they're not going to die. And you guys are like, wait, why do you know that bit? Because when I do these reviews, if I got time, like how I have time today, I'm going to try to at least get through the end of this volume, maybe if I'm lucky, and then I can just put that up and then get started on the next one. I'm not going to do 2 today. That's fucking impossible. I can't do 20 chapters in a day. I don't have that much fucking time. So I do want to say this though, right? The tension is definitely there. The stakes are definitely being raised. And what I love what Oda does with stuff like this, and I'm going to say pardon my language just for a little bit, right? I know you guys are like, wait a second, pardon your language. You always say something crazy, and you always have these little moments where you use some explicatives, and I got to put the headphones in. I actually had one of you guys write me and say that. You got to put the headphones in when you watch some of my reviews, because I'm going to slip up and say some things. So I'm going to give you a disclaimer now, right? I like how Oda places himself in certain situations with his characters to where he's got his back up against a wall, right? And what I mean is, it's like, look at what's going on with the Straw Hats now, right? The Straw Hats, they're making light work out of all of the bosses, right? It seems like they all have counters, and I like how Usopp had that one line where he says, yeah, I had to deal with somebody like you in Alabasta, and I didn't have any problem taking you out now because experience wins. And the Straw Hats are getting really, really comfortable. You even see Zoro dicking around for a little bit because he refers to it as a warm-up. And I'm feeling bad about throwing a little bit of shade at Luffy in the last chapter when I say, man, this don't feel right. If this was Zoro, Zoro would just kind of come right in and nip this shit in the bud. Luffy doesn't have a sense of urgency. He's putting his crew in danger. And then when you look at how the Straw Hats are fighting, it's like they're kind of toying around a little bit. Like Nami, she has that moment where she's waving around the staff and everything, and she uses the black storm lightning. I thought that was pretty cool how the lightning just kind of whips around, and they're like, oh my god, it's a sorceress. She says, ha, call me Miss Sorceress. I'm like, baby, I call you whatever you want. What you want me to call you? I call you whatever you want, girl. Don't even worry about that shit. So I say that to say, I said to say, man, like when it comes to the Straw Hats, you look at the different scenarios, like we got some very beautiful things going on right now. Some very beautiful things, and we see some character development, and yet at the same time, all of the people that they're fighting, if they were to get serious, they could probably take their ass out in no time. And this goes with Sanji and even Jinbe. And I think what's happening is the Straw Hats, during their time skip, they've gotten too powerful for their own good. I don't think that they're walking, hacks. I don't think that they're going to walk into a situation, be so overpowered that it's going to kill any tension, right? Because even with Luffy, as strong as he's gotten and with the type of stuff that he tried to do in the Marineford, obviously we know that there's more powerful people out there. That much is obviously true, right? And at the same time, you have characters like this who clearly are in the league. It makes you wonder, like, are they getting a little drunk off of the high of battle? In particular, I'm looking at Zoro. And if that is the case, then I'm definitely going to fall back on that. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring up the wall is I had to paint this picture for you. Because when you're an author and you get into a situation like this, what ends up happening is a lesser writer will say, I'm up against a wall. Therefore, I need to get the eraser, and I need to erase some of the rules that previously applied in my universe in order to get these characters out of a situation. This will be a retcon. And a perfect example of this is because I have been reading Naruto a lot longer than I've read One Piece. Obviously, I've only been reading One Piece since 2015, so like we're looking at, God, 2 years and a few months. So I haven't been reading One Piece nearly as long. I've been reading Naruto for shit since like 2000, late 2001, early 2002. So a long ass time. But the thing is I've seen moments where Kishimoto, where Oda goes a little more character driven and allows the story to kind of tell itself, which is why I think Fishman Island kind of got pushed further and further back after it was mentioned, because he had to kind of build up to it because the story went off a different direction. Whereas Oda allows the characters to kind of take the story along whatever path is necessary, right? In some cases, he'll focus on this character a little more than the other, and you even see it with the cover pages. Kishimoto, on the other hand, will say, I know that I want this fight to end in this way, and oh shit, the story's gotten off track. I don't know how to make these characters reach this point. A perfect example would be he powered up Mamoru Uchiha so overpowered, so hacks, that he literally didn't know a way to take this dude out the story, and he says, well, for the sake of the story ending in the way that I want it to, Madara has to be defeated in order for me to get to this point. And then what ends up happening is you have Black Zetsu stab Madara, take over his body. There was some foreshadowing for that, but at the same time, it wasn't as well executed, and you can tell that he just needed to replace this overpowered being so the main antagonist, or excuse me, the main protagonist of the story could get an antagonist who was custom built for them to defeat. Therefore, we could segue into the ending that Kishimoto had for the very beginning of the series. So that would be what I call taking an eraser and erasing the wall that you're on in order to get to the path that you originally envisioned. Now, when it comes to Oda, what Oda does is very commendable, right? Oda says, my back is up against the wall. My back is firm up against this motherfucker. That's why I said, you have to forgive me for this. But he says, my back is firm up against this motherfucker. My back is against the wall, and there's nowhere to go from here. There's nowhere to go, which is where the Straw Hat fights are right now. But he says, you know what? I got a chapter coming out next week. I gotta prepare some storyboards for the week after and everything. My editors are gonna be asking questions, so fuck it. Everybody is in front of me. I'm running through each and every one of these motherfuckers. No questions asked. I'm going to get the story to the point where I want it to. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at every little detail. And I'm going to find that one thing that's going to give one of these characters the opportunity to turn the tide or for the tension to be raised. I'm going to introduce a ticking clock. I'm going to have everything going. And I'm busting through everybody, and you're gonna call me fucking brilliant. What I mean by that is by not taking the easy route and progressing things in the way that you're doing, it forces you as a writer to get more creative, and it also forces you to hold yourself accountable. And it's through all of that extra hard work and that extra effort, it allows you to create a bigger payoff. And I think in comparison to the other mangaka that I've read, Oda's clearly in my top 3 when it comes to delivering great payoffs. Clearly in my top 3. Right now, I have him in my 3. I have him in my 3. Like, I've got Togashi a little higher, and I have the mangaka for Rurouni Kenshin a little higher. I think that their payoffs are a little better. But at the same time, I think that when you go with Oda, you gotta kind of judge like the payoff of an arc several arcs later, because something in the future arc is going to make you appreciate what you're getting now. And I think that's what he's selling at, and I think that that's why these situations like this are so interesting. So interesting. Now, I do want to kind of talk about the whole thing with Hody Jones and the whole stuff with Luffy, right? Like, Hody Jones is telling Luffy, you're going to protect everything. How the fuck are you going to protect everything? That is a huge and a bold statement. And I think right here, this is where we're getting to another critical moment in Luffy's character development, right? Because he lost the one closest to him at Marineford. He lost his brother. He went through that grieving period. We saw him go through the flashbacks and how he mourned his brother Sabo, his adopted brother Sabo, basically. How Sabo's no longer alive and with us. And now you have this. You have the Straw Hat Pirates now being put in a position where if Luffy fucks up, they're going to die. And so we're going to come to a crossroads with Luffy. Did he actually learn his lesson at Marineford? And the reason why I say that is this is path 1, right? Like, if you look at Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken and you have the 2 different paths, you can argue that both paths still give you the same results, but it's an optics thing. So look at Luffy. Path number 1 right here, you could argue that Luffy right now, during the 2 years, he's trained, he's used that pain of loss with Ace, he's around his crew, he is watching them develop, he's in this new island, he's made new friends, he's made new rivals, and yet at the same time, Luffy's looking at it and he says, well, hey, I've been through some fucked up shit, but this won't happen again. It's that overconfidence, that arrogance that a lot of the shonen main characters tend to have when they're that confident in their abilities. And I think that when you look at the Straw Hat Pirates and how they're fighting in these current fights, I think that's something from Luffy that's kind of rubbed off on them, which can be dangerous, which leads me to the second path. If Luffy truly did not learn his lesson from Marineford, if he did not learn all of his lessons, then we could be seeing a scenario where one of the other Straw Hats dies or Luffy loses another person who he is close to. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a Straw Hat, but it could be somebody that Luffy forms a bond with. Because a lot of times when you start seeing stuff like this pop up over and over and over, and more so in actual printed media that has like language and, well, manga has language. Let me rephrase this, because graphic novels are starting to gain more respect in the literature community as actually being literature, and manga will fall under this category, but actually being literature. And so now you're actually seeing college courses giving, college classes giving courses on how to interpret graphic novels or whatnot. But this is something you'd see more like in Game of Thrones, on a Brad Thor novel, Tom Clancy. You you see more stuff like that, right, in an actual novel. And so I'm looking at this from this perspective, part because I love to write, part because I do write, and part because I did do some work doing editorial assistant. So I do understand the different intricacies that come into actually putting together a story and how the author kind of thinks of things. And so I'm seeing this repeated narrative with Luffy. So I'm thinking he either loses a member of his crew, he loses somebody close to him, so that could be somebody that he's made an alliance with. So we could see Luffy losing, say, Bo Hancock, who's been there for him, or Rayleigh, who's been there for him, or Jinbe, who he has a connection with Ace and he's reconnected with. Or we could see a scenario where Luffy himself gets put in a near-death state, like it was in Impel Down, where he had to rely on Ivankov, who was also another candidate, and Ivankov has that connection with his father. But if Luffy did not learn this lesson, then that is what you're going to see. And so I'm going to be watching Luffy kind of going forward. As you guys know, one of the things that I've started to really put a lot of emphasis on is Luffy's maturation process as a leader. It's been something that since I've been reading One Piece, probably around the time that his crew got fully completed, I started throwing little tidbits here and there because I like seeing the growth. But this is going to be interesting. This is going to be really interesting because if you think about it, where the Straw Hats are right now, they're in the worst possible scenario. What Nico Robin's gloomy ass said could truly come to pass. If that ship falls and that bubble that is protecting the island ends up cracking, all of the people who breathe air, all the fishmen, their blood is going to paint the sea red. It's going to be Luffy's fucking fault. And it could have been something that Luffy himself could have stopped. So this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. So my chapter question to you guys is, do you think I'm being too hard on Luffy right now? Do you think I'm being too hard on the Straw Hats? And if you had to pick a member of the Straw Hats who you think is the most likely in a fight to drag things out, who do you think it will be, and why do you think that will be the case? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching.